Welcome to the LDHR Podcast, where ministry leaders grow together. Over the next few months, we will be releasing episodes intermittently alongside our other series to talk about growing on purpose, highlighting the people and pathways for growing where you are and with what you've been entrusted. Through these episodes, you'll hear from people with insights and practical steps that you can apply right away. You'll also have the opportunity to find out more about the resources that are available to you and how you can intentionally grow on purpose wherever God has you. Come on in and listen. We're so glad you're here. Ben Sparkman, welcome to the LDHR Podcast. I am so glad you're able to join me today. As we begin, could you share a bit about your crew journey and the role you are currently serving in?
Thanks, Beth. It's good to be here with you. My wife and I joined staff roughly a little over 40 years ago, and we joined because we had a heart for the world, and we went directly to East Asia. And that's actually where we spent our first 25 years plus on staff serving in East Asia. Then in 2012, we moved to Orlando to both join the global LDHR team and have served in that since until the present. And actually, my wife just moved over to the global SLM team, but she's still heart and soul with us, not only with LDHR, but also with BPMT.
Fantastic. Well, once again, welcome. Really glad you're here. And I'm really excited about our conversation today. So anyone who's been around Crew for a while has probably heard lots of acronyms, but one in particular, BPMT, and they've probably heard it mentioned in meetings, trainings, etc. So for those hearing it maybe for the first time, or for those who can't quite remember what that stands for, what does BPMT stand for, and what is it designed to help teams do?
Building powerful ministry teams. And I think each word is very descriptive because the first word, building, shows that it's a process. It's something where we continue to get better and better, continue to develop. BPMT, Building Powerful Ministry Teams, is all about helping teams hit results and the best results for God's glory. So powerful, we want powerful ministry teams because initially this model was made for the business world, but then Triaxia, who developed the material, tweaked it so it would be very relevant for ministry teams, for organizations like ours, for church denominations. This is the ministry component. And teams, building powerful ministry teams is all about teams. For us, understanding what a team is and how a team can work together effectively.
Great. Thank you for defining that for us. So building powerful ministry teams. This tool is built around 6 components that contribute to healthy, effective teamwork. Could you briefly walk us through each one and why it's essential?
There's 6 components, but they're all based around the word cooperation. So when you see our framework, you will see the word cooperation going all the way throughout. And the first component that we focus on is common purpose, which is the reason for our cooperation. Why are we a team? The second is clear roles, which talks about the strategy for our cooperation. The third is accepted leadership, and it talks about the structure of our cooperation. The fourth, effective processes, is the method for cooperation. And then it moves into solid relationships, and it is the climate for cooperation. And we'll talk about each of these words is very important, but the word climate is very important in solid relationship. And then lastly, the 6th component is effective communication, and that is the means of cooperation.
Fantastic. And as you said, we will dive a little bit deeper into each one of these, but let's just take kind of a big picture overview. And as you were walking through even just the name, BPMT, you pulled out the word team. And I know that the model is very intentional in defining what a team is. So how does BPMT define a team, and why does that distinction matter?
Yeah, and actually what BPMT will do is kind of define the difference between a team and a group. And the biggest distinction between teams and groups is the results and the kind of results and the power of those results. The definition that BPMT talks about, actually, I love this. The definition is a team is a group of interdependent people who are committed to a common purpose and choose to cooperate in order to achieve exceptional results. And in this definition, we have a lot of, really powerful, important words: interdependent people, committed, common purpose, choose, cooperate, exceptional results. But what we focus on in this definition is actually the word choose, because a powerful team chooses to collaborate or to cooperate to the highest levels so that they can see exceptional results.
I like that definition a lot. And I think there is a lot that can be unpacked in that. I really like that intentionality of choosing to work together. It's not an accident. You hang out with a group of people all the time, but there isn't that cooperation. There isn't that intention to work together to get results. And so I think that is a really helpful definition when we're thinking about teams and teams working together, as you said, towards that goal and towards those results and very specific results. The model also talks about synergy. And I know that's a word people kind of throw around, they use a lot, but it can mean different things to different people. How does BPMT define synergy, and what does it actually look like when a team experiences it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Beth. And I'll give the definition, but then I'll also just add something that I love about BPMT. Synergy is the working together of two or more people where the results are greater than their individual efforts or capabilities. In other words, it's not saying 1+1 is 2, but 1+1 is 3 or 1+1 is 4 because of the power of synergy. But what I wanted to point out is when we often do a BPMT workshop, which is the normal way that we go about bringing BPMT to bless a team, is the fact that we allow them to define it. So what does synergy look like on your team? What are spiritual dynamics of synergy? How has synergy been built and how has it broken down? So one of the ideas of BPMT is we bring a framework to them, meaning the facilitators bring the framework, but we are not the experts. The team itself, they are the experts. So they have to define, what does synergy look like for them and what do they need to do to build it?
Fascinating. Can you think of any examples of a team and what they have come up with to give us just a little deeper picture into what that looks like?
Yes and no. I will answer that in this way too, because what we also try to do is we let the teams have their own discussions. So as facilitators, unless we're brought into the discussion, we often just kind of sit to the side and we'll define things. But what we have noticed time and again, whether it's discussing the definition of team, whether it's discussing synergy, any parts around the wheel, what we have heard teams say often is this question just allowed us to discuss something that we've been sensing, but we didn't know what it was. And this question allowed us to get to some key issues. And synergy is often one. Team barriers would be another example where teams have just been saying, yeah, we've been stuck. And these kind of questions help us see, number one, where are the problems? And then have ideas as to what the solutions are.
That's really powerful, asking those questions and allowing teams to just sit with that for a little while and discuss it. Sometimes they're so busy just doing in ministry, but it sounds like the workshop is giving them also a chance to process together, which also helps them come together and work together as a team. That's great. So let's dive in just a little deeper into each component. The first component you mentioned is a common purpose. Why does the model begin there? And what happens when a team skips this step or isn't truly aligned around why they exist?
Yeah, in a word, if you skip this step, you're just not going to be a team.
Okay.
Common purpose and the reason for our cooperation. Why do we exist as a team? What has God called us to do? What results are we coming together in order to see accomplished? So Triaxia, again, the company that developed this framework in the first place, would say that 70% of team success is due to a common purpose that is clear, compelling, and common. It involves everyone in the team. It moves everybody in the team. It moves their hearts. They're very clear about what they're being called to do. And we've often found in workshops that teams think they had a clear purpose, but once they start discussing it, in a deeper way and going through a little bit of an evaluation tool, they can find out they can make the purpose more clear, more compelling, and involve everyone on the team to a higher level.
That's fascinating. 70% is riding on this one component.
Yeah.
That's crazy, but it makes sense because otherwise everyone's going to be pulling in a different direction. They need to have their North Star of where we're going.
And Beth, that's a great word because we talk about alignment and it's where the team, it's kind of the power for the team. It's the secret ingredient. I've often called common purpose a team leader's best friend
Mm,
because if the team has a clear common purpose, it draws everyone together. You have the motivation, you have the alignment, you have the power. So yeah,
mhm.
very, very, very important.
Absolutely. The next two components are clear roles and accepted leadership. These can sometimes be challenging conversations for teams, but why are they so foundational and what changes when they're in place?
Yeah, clear roles is kind of a tricky one because it's a very involved session when we do it in a workshop. As I said, it was the strategy for our cooperation. How do we come alongside so we are working together to achieve the purpose? And so we talk about things like what is my part of our job? What is your part of our job? And that we use people's spiritual gifts,
Mm,
their strengths, their motivations to fill in the gaps, to do what we would call common roles and informal roles on the team. So, not just being the finance manager, not just being the team leader, but who's going to be the prayer champion? Who's going to be
mm,
the encourager? Who's going to be the person who holds us to our deadlines and keeps us working? So we have all of these informal roles that we talk about in clear roles that really provide the power for a team and the synergy for a team. And the other thing is that if you're familiar with LDHR, you should be very familiar with the position focus.
mm.
And in BPMT, we will often say at the end of the session, in order to really make the most of clear roles, we need to have good position focused conversations with the team leader. And the other team understands what our position focus is. My position focus is my part of our job. And so it's very clear. So that's actually in our organization, the best tool we have to help us be clear.
That's a really helpful perspective of how position focus even ties into this model. And it fits right into those clear roles. Like you said, what is my part? And again, I think of Paul's example of we are the body of Christ and, person's a hand, one's a foot. And it's like saying like, I'm a hand. This is what I do. And this is what I do well. And the foot saying, that's great. This is what my role is, instead of them not knowing or not being clear of, wait, what do I do? So I think that's a really helpful perspective. And what about accepted leadership? What role does it play?
The greatest cause for team failure is failure in this area of accepted leadership.
Mm,
And accepted leadership is all about how the team is supporting the leader and how the leader is serving the team. It can also be a bit of a confusing one because when you hear team failure is due to failure in accepted leadership, at first glance, you might think, oh, well, that just means the team leader is ineffective. The team leader is incompetent. The team leader is not good. What I love about this particular session is it's about the team leader, yes. And it does give some really good tracks for a team leader to be thinking through what he or she needs to be providing for the team so that the team can succeed. But accepted leadership is the structure for our cooperation. And we talk about that effective teams need structure. We can't just be laissez-faire. We have to have a direction and a purpose that we're going on. We need to have appropriate boundaries, but we need to do this as a team. It's not just the team leader. Accepted leadership is all about the team leader and the team and what is their connection. And really the end point is just how Jesus came to serve. And so what we'd often say is the team leader will serve the team and the team will empower the leader.
mm,
We often think of a team leader empowering the team, but here we say
right.
it's the team that empowers the leader. And what that means is the team is saying, because you're serving us, we have a heart to follow your leadership, the structure that you provide for us so that we can do this together. So accepted leadership is all about the team leader and the team and the connection and how we all need each other and we serve each other and we empower each other.
There's a lot of choice in that, a lot of choosing to cooperate, as you said at the beginning. And I think that is powerful for everyone on the team individually to say, I choose to empower the leader. I choose to lead this team. And so I think a lot of encouragement in that and a lot of freedom to say, I'm going to be working towards this common purpose together and I'll accept this leadership. That's great. The fourth component is effective processes. What do we mean by that? And how does BPMT help us think differently about processes and what role do they play in helping teams thrive?
Well, number one, we do BPMT workshops all over the world. But another thing that we do are BPMT diagnostics. And that's where a team can answer, like, for example, there's one on performance, which takes you around each part of the wheel from common purpose all the way to excellent communication. And whenever we do that, we kind of rate where are we strong and where are we weak. I think our diagnostic of our diagnostics is that on 95% of the teams that do the BPMT diagnostic, effective processes is number 6. It is our weakest area. And part of the reason is what you just said, Beth, is we are an organization that attracts entrepreneurs, high energy people, and we go, do, but we don't often reflect. And we don't evaluate, and we don't take the time to say, how can we be more effective in our cooperation? So effective processes is all about the method of our cooperation and how can we cooperate smarter? How can we work together in a smarter, more effective, more efficient way? And what I often try to say is, and just make sure your processes do not become purpose. And by that, I mean, sometimes we say, oh, well, here's our policy and we serve a policy. But that's actually not the way it's supposed to be. That's backwards. Our policies are supposed to support our common purpose. Our processes support our common purpose. So anytime that we find a policy or a process is not serving our purpose, we need to change it. And that's the power of it. It's not serving the process. It's allowing the process to serve the purpose. And that's a very important distinction. That being said, when we do a workshop, we will often find that people can make the greatest, fastest progress in this area of effective processes because they realize, oh, our meetings are not effective. How can we make our meetings more effective? Oh, we'll do a team process check. And you can see overnight improvement just because you're saying, how can we make this better? What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? And then how do we change it?
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that's fascinating that 95% of the diagnoses that you do put this as number 6, but it doesn't surprise me either. But it's also encouraging that teams who say, we want to focus on this, we want to grow in this, see great results when they do actually put a little bit of focus on effective processes. And the final 2 components are solid relationships and effective communication. These often feel like soft skills, but they're anything but optional. What tends to happen when either of these is missing, and how can teams intentionally strengthen them?
Solid relationship, and they choose the word solid for a purpose because they kind of talk about we can be friends because we have the same likes and dislikes. We like spending time together. But a powerful team, and this comes out in clear roles, needs an effective diversity. And oftentimes we'll find that when you're very different from somebody, it might make you powerful as a team, but it's not like, oh, we're just going to go hang out all the time. So we make the distinction between solid relationships and best friends. And what we say is, yes, you can be friends with people on your team, but you don't have to be best friends. You are there as a team because God has called you there to accomplish a purpose. And it is the climate of cooperation. And what we're looking for are relationships that are solid, are relationships that when the storms come, when the pressure comes, that relationship is solid. You can trust in each other. You can rely on each other because you've built a very solid relationship. So in this session, we'll oftentimes talk very deeply about what does it mean to trust and to be trusted. Trust is an incredibly important part of solid relationships. And then another, we talk about team operating principles, or some people will call them team norms. And these are how do we work together? How do we covenant together and say, this is how we're going to cooperate as a team? And I think what BPMT will say is we don't only want to accomplish the purposes that God has given to our team, but we want to do it in such a way that we still like and love each other. So it's not only what we do, but how we do it.
Mm.
And solid relationships often speaks into this is the how we do it. These are our operating principles, and this is what we're going to hold each other accountable to. Then moving on to excellent communication, it's the sixth component, and you can kind of move from one part of the wheel to the other. There is a logical progression that goes through. And part of the reason they would put excellent communication in the very last spot is because it feeds back into common purpose. And we will notice that one of the ways that we keep our purpose clear and common is through excellent communication, recasting the vision. This is why we are together as a team. You cannot overuse that. You just have to bring people back to it all the time. And in excellent communication, we will talk about what good communication is. We'll talk about assumptions about communication. For teams that have multicultural aspects, we'll maybe look at some of the multicultural aspects that will either help or hinder us in our communication. And then what I often like is BPMT is very action oriented. And there's what we call a communication inventory, which will allow a team to look at 15 different areas of communication on their team and find out where are we strong, where are we weak, and maybe what are some improvements we can make to make our communication more effective.
That sounds like a really helpful exercise to do and to do with your team. To talk about communication, sometimes that might sound a little redundant, but how powerful that is to help put people on the same page. And you mentioned on there, on our teams, we often have very multicultural teams, intercultural teams. And so for those people who are listening, they might be living in a different culture or context or working on a team like this. Have you found that these six components translate well across cultures? And are there any components that tend to look different depending on where people serve?
What we have found, because we've pretty much done BPMT in every national ministry, almost everyone, and the results are, how shall I say, they're the same in that people have said, this has helped us talk about things that we just didn't know. We've now realized things about our team. We've realized new opportunities. That happens everywhere. How they get there is very different, kind of based on their culture. Some cultures, more outgoing, more open, some more would be a little bit more private, for lack of a better word. But what we've noticed is because BPMT is about the team, and we just create a safe, honest environment for a team to enter into these discussions. And if they do so wholeheartedly, they will see progress and hopefully will continue on in that. So we've actually seen that this framework works across every culture, but its expression will be different. A workshop will be different in one culture as opposed to another, just based on that culture. And then we've also seen it be very effective with teams that have people coming from 6, 7 different nationalities, even different languages. And it's just fun to see people interacting at a very high level. So yeah, it's a very, very good cross-cultural tool.
That makes a lot of sense. And like you said, even if they have different languages spoken on the team, this gives them a new language to speak together. And I think that is also a powerful tool for a team. As you've coached teams through BPMT over the years, have there been any moments that really have stood out to you? Maybe times when you saw a team have a breakthrough or have an aha moment or really see themselves differently?
This will be a yes and a no. Pretty much every time, lots of aha moments. And usually because we facilitate, so we describe things, but then we leave them with questions that the team will discuss. And so many times we see these teams just realizing, okay, we should have seen this, but we didn't. I think part of it is too, sometimes we see people kind of come in to BPMT either with a negative view or somewhat of a, I'm not real sure about this. And it's just been really fun to hear at the end some people stand up and say, I actually didn't want to come here, but this has been a very valuable 2 days that we have spent together and we've invested well. And on that note, what I also love about BPMT is, yes, it's 2 days, sometimes 2.5 days, sometimes 3 days, even 4 days. I mean, there are different expressions of BPMT, and you can do it in a shorter way or a longer way. But what we do is we accomplish work. It's not like you're taking 2 days away and you're just learning skills and knowledge. We're learning new vocabulary. we're learning new tools, we're answering new questions, but we're working. And so it's never a waste of time because the workshop is built around a team coming together with an important team task, like a critical path step, and then coming together and saying, how are we going to work on this for the next 3 to 6 months? I love people coming in saying, oh, I thought this was going to be a waste of time. And they walk away saying, we got more done in these 2 days than we would have in a month.
That's really encouraging and really great to hear, people's perspective change. But I understand too, sometimes going into things like that with a bad attitude. I've been there too, but it's also a testament to the power of God working through a tool like this to really help teams, giving them space to talk, to process together, like you said, to work together on a task as well. So you've been using this model for some time now. But Ben, how has it shaped you personally and the way you lead and work with your own team?
Yeah, as I said, it kind of gives me a framework and a model to think through. Now, how are we bringing this into our team? What are some questions we need to discuss? Maybe what are some tools or evaluations that we need to do? That's certainly it. But I think in kind of taking a step back, what it also allows me to do is to see the power of feedback.
Hmm.
BPMT, and specifically the training of BPMT facilitators, is probably the most fertile ground for healthy feedback, both giving and receiving, that I've experienced in my 40 plus years on staff. And to see how people will say, oh, I loved it when you did this. Oh, next time you might consider this. It's an area where we just give such healthy feedback. I'm not a person, like most people, who just says, oh, what did I not do very well there? I'm not a person who asks for feedback, but it's just built into the BPMT culture. And that's one of the things that has actually blessed me as a leader myself, because it's given me a much not only healthier understanding of feedback, but just lots and lots of experience in healthy feedback. I've really am very thankful for that.
That's a really beautiful picture of just being able to be on a team where you're able to give and receive feedback well. And like you said, the model just feeds into that, building the trust, building the cooperation of working together. And it creates that safe space for people to give and receive feedback so we can grow. And that truly is a gift. So if someone's listening and they're thinking, I've never done this with my team and I'd really love to learn more, where would you point them?
Well, the first and easiest answer is you go to the llama, and the llama will always point you in the right direction. So that's the easiest go-to for anybody on the LDHR.org site. But another one is just go to your national LDHR leader, who will either know about BPMT and connections for that, or will be in touch with the regional LDHR leader. And all of those are in good connection with the sub-team that I lead, and one of our key areas of focus is BPMT. So it's very easy to connect the dots.
Right. And for those listening, yes, ldhr.org, find the llama, click on that, or you can email the llama@crew.org and ask, and we'll get you connected. Finally, Ben, as we wrap up, what's one idea or mindset shift you would hope listeners would carry with them the next time they work with their team from our conversation today?
I would say take the time to talk about your common purpose. Just saying, why has God brought our team together? And just thank the Lord for the privilege that He has given you to focus on that mission. Because BPMT is all about mission results and what the Lord has called us to do for His glory. So I would just say, take some time and glory in the fact that God has given you a common purpose and the privilege that is to work together. And then if you realize, we need some work on that, well, maybe BPMT can come alongside you and become even clearer in that purpose that the Lord has given you.
I love it. Start with the common purpose. Why are you there? It starts with that. Well, thank you, Ben, so much for your time and walking us through the BPMT model. Really appreciate it and your insight into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Whether you're leading a team, serving on one, or just beginning to think more intentionally about how your team works together, I hope today's conversation has given you a fresh perspective on what makes teamwork truly effective. As you reflect on what you've heard, I'd encourage you to take Ben's suggestion. Take some time to talk with your team about your common purpose. Ask yourselves, why do we exist? What are we trying to accomplish together? You might be surprised by the conversations that follow. and by the clarity and unity that can grow from taking time to align around that shared purpose. If you'd like to learn more about BPMT, be sure to check out the resources we've linked in the show notes. And if you found this episode helpful, we'd love for you to share it with a teammate, a leader, or someone who cares about building healthier, more effective teams. Those simple conversations can have a lasting impact. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.